Oh hey, welcome and Merry Christmas! I was just reading up on this terrifying legend known as the Grifter. It comes around this time of the year on every YouTube video to try and get people to sign up to sketchy mobile apps and buy cheap Chinese earbuds. Ugh, it just sends a shiver down my spine. Even scarier than the Grifter is Christmas. Now I know what you're thinking, Christmas is usually a joyous occasion, full of celebrating and gift giving, and families getting into fist fights over politics. But Christmas also has a darker side to it. Take Krampus for example. He's a demonic looking horned fellow that follows jolly old Saint Nick to help punish the children that may have found their way onto Santa's naughty list. As scary as Krampus might be, at least he's just a legend. It's not like he's real. But what if there was a creepy Christmas legend that actually existed? Well, that's where today's Tales from the Darkside comes in. Seasons of Belief follows a family on Christmas Eve, as the parents create a spooky legend known as the Grither, a monstrous beast that visits and devours anyone that says its name around the Christmas season. It's Christmas Eve and the blank family, they don't seem to have a last name. It's just mom, dad, and the children Jimbo and Steffa. Now I want to address the elephant in the room before we go any further, but if you notice, mom looks a lot younger than dad. I'm not one to judge, but I honestly thought that was the grandfather, until one of the kids said, "Hey dad, there's gotta be almost 40 years between the two." Anyway, Steffa wants to watch the Gumby Christmas Carol, but for some reason her parents won't let her. It's not like Gumby is rated X.
This is one family that's going to have an old-fashioned Christmas Eve.
Gramps here has to be in his 70s, so just how old-fashioned are we talking? Steffa isn't happy with her parents' decision and claims Santa doesn't even exist, so we know which kid is going on his naughty list.
It was the night before Christmas and all through the house. Dad locked up the liquor because Santa's house.
Dealing with billions of kids in one night would drive anyone to start drinking. The mother is not too fond of the kids' Santa mockery and tells them that if they get on Santa's bad side, well, any gift they're given will break within a month. Most of the stuff is made in China anyway, so it's bound to happen regardless. Right on cue, we have the first casualty. Also, this is where I was confused with the relationship between the two adults. I really thought Grandpa was getting a little too fresh with his daughter.
Did Santa Claus do that because I said he wasn't real?
Oh, it was probably just a warning.
Yes, Steffa, maybe you should keep Santa's name out of your mouth. Jimbo uses this opportunity to open one of his gifts. I guess he figures because it was slightly ripped open by the train that he can do whatever the hell he wants. Not one to be left out, Steffa demands that she get to open one as well, but her mother has to choose. I hope the parents have more gifts to put under the tree, or they're really going to kill the whole Santa illusion. Well, Jimbo gets a book and Steffa gets some Crayola crayons, but pfft, you call that art? Mom might be much younger than Dad, but she has the hobbies and wardrobe of someone much older.
I'm bored.
How can you be bored? You haven't even tried all your crayons yet.
You little ungrateful shit. You have books and crayons. How could you possibly be bored? When your father was a kid, he didn't even have crayons. He had to use pure lead, which explains why he looks so old. He's actually only 35. Jimbo and Steffa are now both bored, and since they can't watch TV for some reason, they ask their parents to tell them a story, but not a boring story like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or the Little Drummer Boy. They want something they've never heard before.
Not that one, it's too scary.
We want a scary story.
Kids love scary stories. I'm sure the parents won't use this moment to traumatize them for decades to come. Dad decides to tell the kids about the most fearsome and terrifying monster in the world, which also happens to live in the North Pole, called the Grither.
The most awful thing in the world. You said his name out loud.
Apparently saying the Grither out loud will draw this monster towards you, so for the next 15 minutes, the parents do all they can to get their kids to say it over and over, almost like they want this Grither to take them away. But that's so silly. There's no way this Grither actually exists. Hey, did you hear that? Must have been the wind. This Grither lives on the other side of a mountain away from Santa's workshop, and doesn't like it when people talk about him because he thinks he's special. Also, each time you say his name, his ears get bigger and bigger, until they get so big that he uses them to fly down to your house so he can eat you or something. Jimbo's grandpa dad was so close to beating him with that book. You can't blame Jimbo for laughing. I mean, the Grither isn't so much scary as it is kind of stupid. The story is really starting to scare the hell out of Steffa though, but still, it's just a story.
And he reaches out his arms, and he grithers him in. He grithers him in.
Not only does this thing have ears that keep growing, it also has basketball-sized fists, arms as long as boa constrictors, and then it uses those arms to Grither whoever was saying his name. What the f does Grither mean? So he hugs people to death? Thankfully, Jimbo calls out his parents' nonsense, because how could they know all of this if no one that has seen him has lived? Since the Grither is a Christmas monster, this means it has to have a song about it. The song is actually sang by the Grither, but the parents know it because Mom's brother Michael overheard the Grither singing it one year, and he told her, and well, she told Dad. Which is a thing that very likely happened and is definitely not a lie.
Oh, I am the Grither.
So does the Grither just make parody versions of classic Christmas songs? He's like Weird Al, but not quite as jolly. The kids don't exactly buy the song, so the parents continue describing what he looks like. He's as tall as a tree with white skin and blue and red veins just under the surface.
It's the sound of his wings.
He can fly?
Have you not been paying attention, stupid? Did they not say his ears grow bigger and bigger? He's like a monster version of Dumbo. The kids are definitely starting to get scared now, and they want the story to stop. But their parents tell them that if they don't finish the story before the Grither arrives, they'll all die. Their children are going to need a ton of therapy in the future. Before the story can be finished, the phone rings, so Grandpa Dad goes to answer it, while the kids beg their mom to keep going.
Oh, I can't. The person who starts the story has to finish it.
There are way too many rules to this story. Meanwhile, Dad is clearly up to something. What if he's in cahoots with the Grither and wants it to take his kids so he can finally be alone again with his very young wife? This is the most boring Christmas ever. The kids aren't allowed to watch TV so the family can spend time together. Meanwhile, Mom's ignoring the kids and Dad's on the phone. So what was the point of banning the television for the night? Is that supposed to be the Grither? Geez, someone really needs to get this girl art lessons.
Who is that?
I don't know. He knows who we are. He was wondering if we're all going to be home tonight, and I said, of course we were.
The Grither knows how to use a phone too? Aren't its hands the size of basketballs? How does it dial? How does it hold the handset? How does it know their number? Dad plays stupid like he doesn't know who was on the phone, but says the person just kept asking questions. The kids beg their father to continue traumatizing them. Finish the story before the Grither arrives. Holy shit, it's the Grither!
It's Uncle Michael.
Oh, it's just their Uncle Michael. I was worried for a second. Their uncle was the person on the phone, and Dad decided to use this opportunity to scare the kids even more. Except Dad screws up when he tells them that he taught Uncle Michael the song over the phone, when Uncle Michael was supposed to be the one that taught the song to their mother. The kids pick up on this immediately, and their mother is like, never mind, all the adults to the kitchen.
Because the Grither is no more real than Santa Claus. You don't believe in Santa Claus, do you?
What the f***, Dad? Fine, you want to admit that the Grither isn't real, but why take away Santa from them? Dad spills the beans that he made the whole thing up. But after scaring your kids all night, maybe you should let them go watch Gumby now?
But you didn't finish the story!
You idiot, your father just told you he made it up. What's with this sudden burst of wind? Alright, it's not that windy. These people are acting like they're in a Category 5 hurricane.
It was the Grither!
Oh, honey, of course not. It was the wind.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Oh my god, the Grither is real? I guess this is what happens to non-believers. The Grither snaps both parents' necks or crushes their heads, I'm not sure. But why was Dad just standing there like a mannequin?
It wasn't Santa Claus.
No, Steffa. Santa generally doesn't murder people, unless it's Silent Night, Deadly Night, Silent Night, Christmas Evil, Violent Night, Sint, Santa's Sleigh, Rare Exports A Christmas Tale, and the rest. Seasons of Belief is a fun little spooky Christmas story. The Grither is a silly idea, but from the point of view of a child, it can be pretty scary. When you're a kid and all you can do is use your imagination, you're bound to conjure up things that no one could truly capture on film or TV. It's fun that the Grither does show up at the end, but did the Grither always exist? Or was it created through the children's belief that it did? It would be pretty coincidental that there just so happens to be a monster that fits the exact descriptions that the parents were giving. I think it makes much more sense that it was sort of willed into existence by the kids believing that it was real. Especially Steffa, she seemed dead set on the Grither's existence being undeniable. If a little belief is all it takes to summon a giant monster, then why isn't Santa real? I'm sure at some point they thought he was, but he never actually came around to hand off gifts. I guess imagination only works when it's used for summoning monsters. The episode is filled with that Christmassy feeling you expect this time of the year, from the lit up tree, the snowy and cold outside, to all the Christmas music that plays throughout. It really makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Well, until the parents start terrifying their children for their own amusement. Seasons of Belief was written and directed by Michael McDowell, the man who also wrote the very fun episode Halloween Candy. He seems to have a knack for creating some of the more festive additions to the series. The cast for the most part does a fine job for what is a cheap horror anthology show. The little girl Steffa may seem a little familiar to some, as she was played by Jenna Von Oy, an actress likely best known as Six from the very 90s show Blossom. The only other real notable actor would be E.G. Marshall, who played the father. He's likely best known as Juror Number 4 from 12 Angry Men, but this wasn't his first time working on a George Romero production. In 1982, he appeared in the Creepshow segment They're Creeping Up on You, which is about an old guy who's deathly afraid of germs and bugs, and eventually becomes overrun by cockroaches. Margaret Clank played the mother, though she hasn't really done much else. She was on a soap opera for a bit during the 80s, but why did they choose two actors to play the parents that have such a huge age gap? At the time of filming, E.G. Marshall was 72 years old, and Margaret was closing in on 34, so that's a 38-year difference. And given that Jimbo would be around 10 years old, this means a 60-year-old man picked up a 20-year-old girl. I'm not saying this can't happen, I'm just saying it's kind of weird. If you're looking for something that not only gives off that Christmas feeling, but is also kind of spooky, you really cannot go wrong with Seasons of Belief. But what do you think of Seasons of Belief? Let me know because I can't wait to see what you think. Anyways, that's all for today. And while I see who's at my door, I hope you're having a joyous Christmas season and stay spooky. Now who could that be?
Before we start, this video is sponsored by Conray.
Oh god, not the grifter.
It was the wind.
Surprise, motherfucker.